designated agency office. That means when you employ them, only the listing agent and their supervisory broker are working as your fiduciary. And that's the second highlighted part in the handout. Anyone else in the office, including Mr. McCauley's much more experienced team leader, can work for buyers against your interests as a property seller. Now, I certainly understand the idea of giving an inexperienced person a chance to be out on their own, but I would recommend, especially on a unique property like this, that you work with someone who is an experienced listing agent, not someone who just works as an assistant. Thank you.
I have a quick question for him.
Well,
Did you give a copy of this to Patrick?
to Patrick.
He's sitting behind you. He's
Yeah, sure.
I'm happy to rebut any of that.
You
have questions?
Maybe when we get to that agenda item, we can deal with that and other questions that may come up. Is there anyone else present who would like to speak during public comment?
and we're getting Boyd and Boyd tonight. I have to take this off. I'm hearing myself echo. This is good. There's a little bit of feedback issues, but I think we'll get it worked out. Pam Boyd, an active and informed Scio resident. Opening the packet for tonight's meeting found me kind of stuck on Trustee Knoll's letter to Supervisor Hathaway. When did the board decide to proceed with a Scio church sidewalk project? When did the board decide a Scio church sidewalk project warranted OHM to do a cost estimate? Where on the priority list of Scio's projects for 2024 does this not board approved project sit? For that matter, where is your priority list? Who is in charge of developing this priority list? Where does the fire department needs sit on this priority list? Are you really telling me that this neighborhood, which just received their much needed sidewalks in their neighborhood, no argument there, now also rates to be given a bonus when other sections of the township are in need of sidewalks too? Again, where is your priority list? Number two, I want to thank you for the following, for their written reports: Warma, Sean McCormick's code enforcement report, OHM report, Laura Krupp's planning report. I'd especially like to thank Sean for his report, and I look forward to future reports helping Scio be open and transparent. I hope others will be doing reports later. Finally, including in this meeting, the board has only, including this meeting, only has 19 regular meetings left in this term to do right by residents. And I want to encourage you to do that. Now, there was a late arrival in the packet, and so I've added a little footnote here. The late arrival in the packet was an email from Judy Monick. I'm troubled by her being told it looks like in some conversation that somebody wanted less white men. You know, that's racism. If you can interchange a color into that statement, less color men, you're discriminating against that color. And I am appalled and ashamed of anyone using that kind of language in this day and age. Thank you.
Is there anyone else present who would like to speak during public comment? Before we return to those who are participating now remotely, I'd like to explain that we ran into some technical difficulties connecting with Zoom at the beginning. I apologize for that on behalf of the township, but we now appear to be connected. Do we have participants who would like to speak?
Yes, we do have participants. Please raise your Zoom hand if you'd like to speak. We have 10 attendees. And again, apologies for the glitch, and we're looking forward to hearing your public comment. Rob Paxson. Rob.
Thank you for getting it fixed. That was a little bit stressful. Waiting in the ether for you to get things worked out. Tonight there are 3 reports in the report section from OHM, Carlisle Wortman, and our new enforcement officer. Wonderful reports, detailed. Thank you for that. I noticed that Knights of Columbus and Aubras Grove and the OHM report are still active despite significant resident objection to those. I see that Judy Monk has withdrawn from the DDA appointment. I would prefer that you appoint her tonight to the Compensation Commission. There are issues with the current person that the supervisor has chosen to appoint. They were listed at the last meeting. I hope you all remember that. I hope that we can get a supervisor's report tonight. I remind you that at the last meeting, there was kind of an impromptu supervisor's report when you went on to explain more detail on an issue that came up that no one knew about that turned out to would have been entirely appropriate for a supervisor's report. I hope that you have one tonight. I hope we have a treasurer's report tonight. I would also like a report from both of you for 2023 for what was accomplished, what is in progress, and what is in the future for both departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Anybody else interested in speaking, please raise your Zoom hand. Seeing no other hands, Will?
All right, thank you. And a quick explanation to those who joined late because of the technical difficulties. We did shift things around a little bit on the agenda before we adopted it. So items G1, G2, G3 of the consent agenda were moved, all of them, to the end of new business. So we effectively have no consent agenda remaining. And item J1, the DDA board appointment was removed from the agenda. All right, that brings us to approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes. This is for the regular meeting of January 23rd, 2024.
Had a couple errors to correct. I found a few too.
Okay, well, why don't we move through in order? It makes it, I think, a little easier. Are there any corrections on page 1? I was just going to make a suggestion that we clarify that J, the item that was moved was the policy for appointments to township boards, just so people know sort of what it is. That got moved. Is there anything else on page 1?
Oh, yes. Township engineer parts. So we should have OHM because they're not, I mean, we're contracted with them, but to clarify who they are, OHM.
Would you prefer that going forward?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe.
And Carlisle Wortman. Okay.
Yeah, same with Carl. And Laura's last name, I believe, is spelled
Correctly. No, this is correct.
Is it? Okay. All right. And facility manager Jeffrey, I believe it's Jeffries. No?
Also
Jeffrey.
correct.
Okay. I guess I misread somewhere. So it was okay. So Laura's is okay. On page 22.
Let's do them in order.
Oh, sorry.
So is there anything on page 2?
I would just ask Jillian, would like parks, parentheses, OHM, lock, parentheses,
Yeah.
Krebs,
Just-
parentheses, Carlisle Wortman, so, you know.
You'd like parentheses instead of a comma, John?
Yeah, cause it's what, no, I don't care
okay.
if it's comma or parentheses,
Okay.
but my point is, I want to leave the township engineer rather than just pick.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's
Yeah,
what I can do. Yep.
yeah, I don't care if it's comma, but I'm sorry. Comma's fine.
Okay, page 2. Page 3.
I just have one on page 10. Do you have something?
Well, let's see. Do you have anything?
I got 5.
You have something on 5?
Yeah. Page 3.
Yep.
Second paragraph, regarding the commission report, it appeared that there might be a request for rezoning.
Good catch.
Where are you?
I got it. Thank you.
It doesn't happen unless they ask, and there's a whole bunch of steps for that to happen. They gotta ask first.
Okay, anything else on page 5, page 6? Page 7?
Well, page 7 is 22, sorry, there's a 7 of the minutes, 22 of the
Oh,
packet.
I see.
Yeah, the second bullet point,
Yep.
the second to last, it's PACER for Pacer.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else on that page? Page 8. Page 9. Page 10, Mariah's name is.
Yeah, that was my
NA.
correction.
Oh, that was your correction, okay.
Sorry, Mariah.
And then I was going to clarify, further down that same page, in response to questions, Hathaway said that he thought the written email communications from the MEDC grant administrator constituted an approval, but the township attorney would wait.
So you want it to say that you thought the written email communications from the MEDC
Grant
Grant.
administrator
grant administrator
constituted
constituted, okay,
an approval, but the township
The-
administrator would wait.
okay. But do you want to say the email because email communications weren't anything we were looking at in the packet. Do you want to say email communications you'd received?
Well, they're referenced elsewhere in the discussion.
Okay,
All right, anything else there? Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. On page 16, I think there's an extra kind of tally because of the motion passed 6-0, and then it says motion passed by voice vote.
oh, apologies, the carryover. I got it.
On page 16. And that was it for my corrections. Any other corrections? Is someone prepared to move
I'll move on.
adoption? Okay, moved to adopt the minutes as corrected. Moved by Noel, support by Rizzo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved.
Excuse me, were there additions to the packet tonight?
Yes, there are some.
Are they printed off?
I just added the couple of communications the board had already received.
Oh, that's it, there's nothing else? Yeah,
No, not to my knowledge.
all right, there was, in the public comments, they said there's other reports, and I only have Norma.
Oh, I think that
Christie
I-
added reports yesterday, reports that you'd already received. They were reports, that our manager had distributed to the
Oh,
board.
Okay. So
I
that was
asked that
updated.
Christie would upload those pieces to the board packet.
Oh,
That we said we would do.
okay.
Code enforcement engineer Carlisle Wortman.
I think there also was a comment that was expressed by one of the members of the public that he hoped there would be more reports. I think he meant oral reports.
Oh, okay,
But
then
I
there
think he
was-
also meant generally, he hoped for more written reports as well. But those would obviously have to be in the future.
well, we can always do oral reports.
Yes, we can. Okay, let's move on then. We have no consent agenda. That moves us to reports. And in addition to written reports, are there any oral reports?
How are you gonna go?
Well, we could go around.
Oh,
Do you have a
just
oral
the-
report?
well, RAC, we're meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. Anybody that wants to log in, because it's so exciting. I like it a lot, I really do. And also, just a reminder, we're spreading the word that there will be a couple of big projects this summer and fall the Miller Z roundabout, 10 weeks that will be shut down. Please spread the word. And also Jackson Road their WCRC will be doing a major reconcreting. I don't know what the term is. They will be shutting it down from where the old fresh forage restaurant all the way to Lowe's. So that's going to interfere with the intersection as well. So that's as far as roads. I also would like to encourage everyone, the Michigan Township Association provides classes. And once a month, they have something called Now You Know. And I have signed up for all classes except one. So this month will be FOIA requests and whatnot, and the ins and outs of that. And they're really interesting. I'm having a good time watching these.
Cool.
So please, I'm encouraging. And if there's some way that we could, the planning commission members, other committee members to let them know, because I think that they could take the class.
Share it out, they could take them.
Yeah, okay. I'll do that.
Can we
Thank you.
watch them afterwards?
Yes, they're recorded and then they only keep them for like 6 months or so until, they don't have the bandwidth. No, I don't know. That's it. Thank you.
Trustee Riser?
My hand was a no.
No, I'm going around.
With respect to PPP, we meet next week. LPC meets on Thursday. Number of us viewed a couple of large parcels of property over the weekend that might be the subject of a conservation easement. The next steps are rating it to see where it fits in the others in the pipeline. The planning commission did not meet last night, otherwise you would have had a written report. So nothing to report there. That's it.
Brief update on Gelman. Gelman has submitted a request to Eagle for a new, it's called NPDES permit. And this is the permit that regulates how much dioxane can be released into Honey Creek, which eventually goes into the Huron River. So Gelman is currently operating under a permit. This one is slightly different. It's pretty similar, but it's slightly different. And there is currently a public comment period in place. Scio Township is probably going to submit written public comment expressing concern about the release of dioxane into Honey Creek. And given there is documented contamination on Breezewood with several of the drinking water wells on Breezewood, which is very close to Honey Creek. So we're planning to do that. We have a meeting on Thursday to discuss it with our attorney and our technical expert, Keith Gavlin. I'll keep you updated after the meeting and after we submit. We submitted a comment previously to a prior NPDES permit application.
And what will be the process to develop Scio Township's comments?
The meeting with Keith Gadway and Bill Stapleton, Will and I will come up with it. Great. That's it.
Okay, Clerk Flintoff.
Sure. Couple of updates. Starting next month, we're gonna try to get back to regular financial reports. I want to thank Rebecca Motti and everybody who's working so hard. Should have up-to-date revenue to expenditure and balance sheets. On elections, upcoming presidential primary, February 27th. We've already issued 2,420 ballots with about 20% returned. I do want to invite everybody to this Friday's 10 a.m. public accuracy test. Don't be shy. If you have any questions about if your vote is actually counted and how it's counted and you want to test that out and prove to yourself that it works, that is actually the express purpose of this test. And so we videotape it and you can come, you can check, you can try to trick the machine, build your confidence and become a better and better ambassador to combat disinformation. Also, next Friday, the League of Women Voters is having a special event at Scio Farms to try to increase voter registration engagement there. Precinct 5 is a long time our lowest voter turnout. So Mary, my deputy, and I will be there participating and registering voters as we can. Regarding the deputy clerk, as you know, for a long time, Scio, when you look at other places, a clerk's office such as ours would typically have 3 or 4 people. We've operated very leanly, worked with office staff. We have a part-time deputy clerk. I'll be bringing a proposal to the board to make that full-time, going from 32 hours to 40 hours in order to best meet the needs of the township. The reason I'll be bringing it next week to the board for your consideration is because I'd like to get authorization from the board to have a full-time position so that I can go out and actually recruit. Mary Gillis has expressed she would like to roll back her hours at a time when we need the hours to go up. And so I'd like to be respectful of Mary's wishes. She's tremendous deputy clerk, editor, and would request that authorization so that I can get it. It'll probably take 2 to 3 months of recruitment to, advertise the position and things like that. So the transition would be slow, but would request that at the next meeting.
Can I ask, so you're saying that Mary, I guess I'm not quite sure, she's working 32 hours, she's not full time now?
No,
Okay, and she wants to work less hours, is that what I'm hearing?
correct.
Okay, and you want to find somebody
Yeah,
full-time?
yeah, and it's been, Mary is just, the best, colleague, partner.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm okay with all of it, I'm just trying to
No,
understand. I mean, I'm
absolutely,
totally
yeah,
fine
she
with
wants
it.
to
Yeah.
work less. I need more, and so it's a good time to kind of, with the board's approval, with that authorization, to have a full-time, then recruit, take the couple months to recruit, and then also have some time to transition with Mary.
Yeah.
Cross-train.
So Mary would become something other than deputy. How would that work?
Well, there is always one and only one deputy clerk at a time. So Mary would then no longer be deputy clerk once I found and appointed an acceptable deputy clerk. I would recommend to the board that the board continue to keep her appointed as editor of the newsletter. She's very interested in continuing in that role. And I would most likely periodically appoint her as a clerk's assistant for help during elections time.
I see, okay. So she would continue working for the township, but in a different capacity.
Yes, provided that the board continued to provide a capacity for her to work in, she would love to
That's the
continue.
proposal though.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
And then I did have some questions about the GCSI lobbying, but if you're gonna give a report on that, I can wait and then ask my questions.
That's
That's it.
okay. Well, since the question was raised, we can sort of continue the conversation that we began at our last meeting in terms of the township's lobbying efforts. So the materials that you saw in the communications to the board were sent out ahead of a meeting that we held last week with a member of the House Appropriations Committee. He's the chair of a subcommittee on the House Appropriations Committee. And we have a meeting with the chair of the Appropriations Committee also scheduled coming up. And as we explained, Kathy and I, at our last meeting, GCSI, the township's lobbying firm, has worked with us to secure funding through direct appropriations. They're through the MEDC, they're called enhancement grants. At least that's what they've been called in the past. But basically what it is it's a direct appropriation from the state in the budget for a particular project, usually capital projects. And we began working with GCSI, I think back in 2021, to try and secure funding for capital projects. And the pattern that we followed, which I understand is sort of the norm for these, is that you meet with your legislators, your representatives, either House or Senate or both, and any other legislators that you can engage in the conversation. And you present to them some options, things that your municipality would like to secure state support for. Our top priority, as we explained last week, remains the capital needs of the fire department. We went to the voters and it was a big ask, and the voters said, no, that's too big, or however you want to interpret the results of the election. But we still have those needs, and we're still trying to secure funding for them. We worked very hard trying to get a federal grant through Congresswoman Dingell, but we did not make the list. It was very competitive. There were a lot of municipalities throughout her district who were competing, and we are working now to try and secure state funding in the next round of the state budget process. The fire department needs are spelled out in that one pager that was in the communications to the board. That's something that we worked with fire chief to update. He actually has a very capable administrative aide who's done a lot of work on that. And so that is a way of summarizing kind of a menu of options. And when we met with the legislator last week, we went through and we sort of looked at different items on that list. That was also advice from GCSI to try and break it out so it's not one big ask. It's a sort of options that could be funded, maybe multiple if we're lucky. But in any case, making it easier to secure funding. The other advice from GCSI, from our lobbyist, was to have something other than the fire department's capital needs, a project that was a little different that we might be able to sort of win support from our legislators for. And we looked at different options and got advice from OHM, our engineering consultant, and the one that we settled on and put forward is something that we sort of have had on our wish list for quite some time, and that is another portion of the pathway network. The pathway network is spelled out in both our land use master plan and it's in our pros plan. But this segment is particularly kind of marketable, I guess, for legislative support because it's at the juncture with a number of different municipalities. So it connects one of the most populated sections of Scio Township by extending a project that we just funded ourselves with Scio Township funds, which is part of the marketing. Because if you can go to the legislature, you can say, well, here's what our community we did with our funds on this project. We're looking for your help to sort of fill a gap. In this case, it's a kind of a literal gap. It's a sidewalk that would provide access for that neighborhood to connect across to Oak Valley, and from there to the public library and to the commercial district to the south, and also connect to the sidewalk that would lead into Ann Arbor and allow folks who were trying to make their way into Ann Arbor to do so either on foot or on a bicycle without having to go in the road. And one particular subgroup of the population is high school students who could then walk from that neighborhood without having to go in the road all the way to Pioneer High School. So those are some of the elements of that particular project that made it kind of more marketable to legislators. We have in particular, we have a state House representative whom we're hoping to work with closely, Representative Brabeck, who represents that corner of Scio Township. And it happens to connect two Senate districts. So it's right at the border of Senator Shink's district and Senator Irwin's district. So we're hoping to enlist their help as well when it gets, if it gets to the Senate for a vote. So that's that project and sort of where it came from and why it was sort of put forward.
I still don't know, thank you. I'll say this project has been mentioned once in passing. I think John mentioned it several months ago in a meeting, like, hey, what about that idea? That's all I knew about it. It's not in our proposed capital plan. I'm looking at the parks. I've never heard our parks director talk about it. And you say it's been on our wish list. Maybe, I don't know if it's been in a plan or something, but it's far, I mean, most of it's outside of Scio Township, and it just, I just have to say, it troubles me when, 2 weeks ago, we were at this board table, we said, let's get an update on what we're talking about with GCSI. We hear about fire, we hear about Gelman, things where we clearly have priorities. I've been concerned about what we spend on GCSI, and then there's this project, apparently.
It's all in Scio Township. The only part that's not in Scio Township is a
How much,
crossing.
how much work, how much have we spent on this project? Who authorized the work for OHM on this project?
I don't think it's exceeded $5,000 if that's what you're asking.
Who authorized it?
I asked OHM to provide some initial work doing a concept sketch, which is basically what they did.
Okay. I would ask that officers of this township not spend money that aren't on stated priorities. I'd also say it looks like, I'm not saying it is, and I really don't think it is, John, and I really don't think it is Kathy.
Yeah, you're looking
But
at me,
it,
but
well, I am, and the reason is, it looks like pork barreling for your neighborhood. And I don't think it is, but that kind of behavior makes it look like it is.
I didn't.
I'm saying, I know you and Kathy, haven't
I
been
think that's
involved in this.
unnecessarily pejorative. We
But-
really don't need to go
but
there.
I-
What is your question?
So what I want to say is, I'd like this township to cease spending another dollar on this project that has not been until it becomes part of our adopted capital plan. We're looking at this plan. We have a draft capital plan in front of us. We're gonna have it by the end of March. If it makes this list, but we've got a long list of different trails and parks and all sorts of neat things we've talked about doing. That project is not on there, and I just don't think that kind of behavior has integrity. To say, well, I'd like to explore something, let me go ask OHM to mop
Right, and
something up.
didn't we just spend 95,000 with OHM to do a study on Park Road we haven't received yet?
Yeah, we've got a lot of projects, and
Yeah.
that is on this
So
list.
I have a question, Kathy, you are are supposed to be, I think the board had agreed that Kathy and Will would be
It
the
wasn't-
reps
it wasn't
to
formal
GCSI
motion.
or something, I don't know, because you couldn't
Yes.
make it, you asked me to
So,
be there,
yes,
so
I
I
did.
need to be clear, because all of this was kind of a surprise.
Well, so I thought the email needed to be shared with the entire board. That's why I forwarded it on to the entire board. I knew I couldn't be present at the meeting in case two others could go, and they could go. John went, you went, and I'm glad both of you went.
Okay, did you know about this before that email?
No.
Okay, well, if you're working together, aren't you supposed to be
Well-
communicating?
We have communicated some. I'm gonna give him some credit for that. There has been some communication.
You and I talked about this project before. It was, as you may recall, I explained that we had been asked to have something else to put forward in
Okay.
addition to our big
Yes.
major ask, the fire
Yes.
department, and you and I talked about
But it was
both Gelman and
very
we talked about this
conceptual,
project,
yeah.
and I explained that it was kind of sketchy because we were trying to pull it together quickly, but we had at least a concept drawing showing the extension of the sidewalk from the part of the project that we had just completed, continuing on. It's not a new idea. Look, I mean, if people
Well,
wanna
is it-
argue
is it
about
written-
whether.
is it written down
But it never
anywhere?
came in front of the
One thing I
board.
will say, first off, if you're dropping 5K on something,
I don't know that it's even that much.
How much is it?
Five K is the limit that I am authorized to spend without having to go to the board for approval. That's why I said I don't
Well,
think it exists.
well,
And
well,
when did
whoa, whoa, whoa.
OHM do this?
No, whoa, but it's not on anything, Will. That's not our procurement policy. You can't
Yeah,
I mean, it's more than that, Will. I mean, Joyce manages our engineer. It's not to say she's the only one who should be able to make requests, but a substantive request about a new project, I would expect to go through our manager.
You know, I don't know what this discussion is even all about at this point in time.
You spent money
Now,
without
wait a
the
minute.
board approval.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yep.
Now, it's information. We're not voting on a project at this point. It's information
Well, it's
that
money
citizens
spent on this
have asked
information.
about. So that's what I looked at, and now we're into like we're gonna say, let's go for it tonight. We're not.
so Will, here's my one and only comment here, and how we do this. I take that for what it's worth. I know I said that probably 1,000 times. So nobody's saying, hey, we gotta micromanage everything Will does or
Right.
Jessica, I'm not suggesting it. But if you're saying, hey, this thing, I made a call to Ohm, which by the way, we've never vetted Ohm in the last 15 years. So that's a whole different subject. Who knows that they're raking us over the coals. I've
Right.
said that about 15 times now. But if it was $50 or $100, okay, hey, you got a sketch, no big deal. But if you're talking 4 figures, well,
Yeah.
you said, well, you had up to $5,000. So I'm now thinking, I'm just,
And
well, before you brush my, just finish my comment. If it's anything over, $500 and above, I go, well, let's really see what we're getting here for our money is, and we really need to do that. That's the only thing I would suggest, right? And run it by at least a few people,
right.
right? And maybe you don't have to come to the board, but hey, run it by Kathy, run it by Jess, run it by a few your compatriots. Say, guys, here's what I'm thinking,
A
get
report.
feedback on this, this
Yeah.
might be a good thing. That's all I would suggest to do. Right? I don't think we have to make everything ceremonious.
Well, the part of
Right,
the
and I-
communication that was omitted from the communication that was included in communications to the board is my response, I believe, to Kathy that said,
Yes.
oh,
First
Kathy,
response.
that's a good suggestion that I report on this to the board. I can try and put something together. And then the next thing I knew, she'd forward the whole email. And I was like, well, okay, or you could forward the email.
Okay, here.
Which is, I don't wanna beat it up. Let's move on. We talked about it. What else?
Well, wait a
Oh,
minute,
wait, I
because.
wanna say something. I wanna say something. The reason I forwarded the email on was because I thought you were brushing me off. And you were saying, well, I'll do a report to the board on this. And I'm like,
That's what you'd asked for.
but they needed the information sooner than that.
Okay.
And so that's why I did.
And I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, I thought I responded and said, yes, I will do what you're asking. And the next thing
You did.
I saw was that you forwarded the whole email. I was like, okay, or that we could go that way.
When was OHM hired to do this preliminary, whatever?
Yeah, when did the
When did
authorization
that,
happen?
yeah, when did that happen?
When did I make the request of them for
Yes.
a concept sketch? I'd have to go back and look and see. But it was, this whole thing, as I just said a moment ago and talked over with Kathy, came together very quickly in response to a request from GCSI to have some other kind of project that we could talk about with the legislators.
Well, and there's Dexter Ann Arbor Wagner Road, and we've had residents for over a year saying we are unsafe walking to the bus stop and standing in the road. That's another, but see, there's projects that are in dire need. Having somebody walk to Target to go shopping is not, to me.
Or the public library or the public school.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
who's gonna
again,
walk to high
like-
school? Come on,
like,
let's
look,
get real.
But
Anyway, but
Well-
well, wait a minute, but we have people for over a year on Dexter Ann
I know,
Arbor,
I know.
and there's other
I know.
more important. That's why this
Well-
kind of stuff needs to come in front of the board so we can agree on moving forward or not.
I agree. We have to prioritize. You don't know which is most important though.
Well, no, that I'm giving another
Have to
example though, right?
Prioritize as a board. I agree with that.
And I know that Joyce will walk us through the 6-year capital improvement plan because that is one of the main purposes of that. I would just remind the board, the procurement policy, everything has to be in the budget. Okay, last year, we passed a balanced budget for the first time in many years, many years. This year, I bet when Joyce gets to her presentation, she's gonna have presented us a proposed balanced budget. We don't keep balanced budgets when we make authorizations that are outside of the budget. So this was not in the budget. And I just share that as an example that it's gotta be budgeted and go through the process so that we know that there's enough buy-in that our decisions are representative of township residents.
Are we ready to move on? All right, do you have a report? Treasurer Paul?
Just an update, the 23 tax year is almost over, and I can't believe it's gone this fast. We had a couple weeks left rather for major collections, and then it'll be winding down. And March 1st, we turn everything not paid over to the county. So we're that close.
Donna, when is the next investment report due?
That will be at our next meeting, was it next Tuesday?
Okay, great, thank you.
And it's through 23. It's dated 23.
Thank you.
No
I
report.
have no reports.
Okay.
We're meeting with the fire department tomorrow, or well, I should say the fire department, our fire partners in fire development. I don't want to call them the opposition. That's not a good term. Our partners in fire development, right? Yes,
I mean,
that'll be our new term.
I hope so. I don't know.
We're gonna find common,
Birthday
let's start with
phone,
common ground.
Partner, we're
Good
gonna
old
sort
common
it out.
ground and then build from
Yeah.
common ground. That's the spirit we're gonna go into this conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, I think we're now ready to move on to the primary report, which is that from our township manager, Jasper West.
So I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that on the table here, we have the proposed budget for the 24-25 fiscal year. And we're not gonna go through the budget presentation tonight, because what I'd like to do is have everyone have an opportunity to take a look at it, put together their questions, their comments. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions prior to the budget hearings. But we have a budget hearing on your schedule for February the 29th. And then if we're not able to conclude with presentations on the 29th, the public hearing is scheduled March 5th. And after the public hearing, we can certainly continue to go through the budget document. And so just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Great,
A
great
joint
work.
effort by Plant Moran, our department heads, as well as our budget team.
Great work, Joyce. Thank you so much for delivering a proposed budget that is complete, that gives us many weeks to deliberate. It's really much appreciated. And I know I made this small request of you earlier, but want to state publicly too. I did ask Joyce if she or Ally, whomever, I'm happy to help too. If there's any major deviations between what was requested, anything substantive between what was requested and what was recommended, that the board be provided the narrative and other backup documentation about what was requested.
Sure.
Thank
That's not a
you.
problem.
Jessica, what's a major deviation in your mind?
Oh, like if somebody requested a change to staffing, you know, a major piece of equipment, something like that. Staffing, equipment, a new program, major contractor. Something big enough that people might have questions about.
And you said that was, the public hearing is March 5th?
March 5th.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, if we're done with reports, let's move on. The next item is unfinished business. This is the Compensation Commission appointment. And I brought this forward after we adopted our new policy on appointments. So I've modified the appointments slightly based on that. But this was preceded by the necessary notification via social media of the possible appointment or the vacancy. And
What was the social media that you posted? I saw you did kind of a blurb about,
next door.
did it mention this opening?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that.
It talked about the requirements briefly, but suggested that people you know, if they wanted to get more information, where they could get some more information. Excuse me, the nominee, person, whom I'm nominating, we're lucky to have with us this evening, Monica, spoke during public comment. I won't belabor the point, but I do want to emphasize that Monica is not only qualified in terms of her career and her background and her education, but also through her prior service. She served as the chair of the Compensation Commission in 2021, when it had to work very quickly and in order to meet the statutory deadline at the end of the year. And she succeeded in bringing forth determinations from the Compensation Commission on time. That was with one group. Since then, there was turnover, and so she served as chair in 2023 with a slightly different group of compensation commissioners, but once again brought forth determinations by the deadline, and so we were on time in both instances, due in part to Monica's leadership as the chair of the commission. So I'm hopeful that everyone, we will unanimously support the reappointment. If there are questions, though, Monica is here and she could respond. But is there any further discussion? Clerk Flintoff.
Yeah, first, I just wanted to pass this around for the board's reference. I just want to, again,
One copy per person. One page per person.
yeah, one vote per person. I just want to thank you, Monica, for being here tonight. I want to thank you again for your service on the Compensation Commission, both in 2021 and 2023. As you know, the board voted down your appointment to the Compensation Commission on December 12th. And so just want to acknowledge it's a little awkward. Gonna kind of repeat for the record here a little bit about what I think is important and add a couple of points. I was surprised that we'll put the same question before the same board. But here we are. So I want to say a couple of things about the Compensation Commission and remind people in June 2021, I brought this to the board because I think it's a measure of good governance. And I think that it is now operating well. I think in 2021, some of the appointments were fraught with very bad politics and some meanness in it. And the 2021 Compensation Commission finished its work in the nick of time. But the way it finished its work gives me concern and is part of the reason I won't be supporting this. I want to remind people that, as I said before, on December 12th, you know, the Compensation Commission is designed with staggered five-year terms, staggered. And I believe that the intention of the statute is to give fresh people. And that's why I don't support reappointments to the Compensation Commission, kind of across the board here. Okay, this is the first one, but I said that December 12th and I stand by that because I think in particular, it's important to have fresh perspectives, current perspectives, and you get that across those staggered. Also, the body is designed to determine our 7 salaries in odd years. We turn over in even years. It's designed that way in order to reduce the chances that an outgoing elected official might try to stack a Compensation Commission for an incoming official. And I'm concerned that that's part of what's going on here. So if you look at the time of this, I just want to be clear, both this vacancy as well, we'll have a new vacancy in November 2024 when Diane Benson's seat is vacated. The Compensation Commission doesn't meet until 2025. So will have the opportunity to bring us 2 candidates before 2025. Will has already announced he's not running for supervisor. And I think we need to acknowledge that he is outgoing and that these dynamics are at play. So I'm asking Will to please start bringing to this board people that would receive unanimous or near unanimous support. This compensation commission does incredibly important work. And I would ask, I know there's a lot of good people out there that we can outreach to. We have time to do that outreach and would ask that you bring candidates who would receive this unanimous support. The candidate tonight will not. Specifically, and I didn't share this in December, but because I didn't think I needed to, but apparently it's like Groundhog Day and Will's just kind of bringing it back and seeing what happens this time. So I have to say, regarding this particular candidate, and I enjoy Monica very much. I think that the 2023 Compensation Commission got its groove. And that's natural with any new body kind of finding its footing. But I have to say, Monica, in 2021, you voted as part of a 3-2 block and a contentious vote to reduce the salary of the clerk. That's an extraordinary act, but really extraordinary because it was against all the comparable data. There was no reduction in the clerk's workload. There was no reasonable basis given in the minutes, in the resolution, other than what you stated in MLive at the time, which was, Monica, that you had disagreed with the board's, I'm paraphrasing, but it had come to light, been highlighted, that there was concern about the board's 2019 decision to set the clerk's salary at $84,000. So 2 years later, a compensation commission is taking action to protest a board decision of 2 years prior. That's inappropriate. In 2021, what most communities were doing for their clerks is recognizing that they had been essential workers. Sometimes I was the only office person here, me, Donna. Elections, most communities were looking at how to increase their clerks' compensation.
Can I ask you a question, yes?
Yeah,
So Monica was on the, I just want to make sure I just
Yeah.
understand this correctly. So Monica was on the 2023 determination.
in
salary.
2021.
Okay, and she voted for your raise, right?
Right,
Not in 2021.
But in 2023 she did.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And this isn't about me personally. What I'm saying
Okay, she
is,
went for the clerk.
no, what I'm
Let's say the
talking
clerk.
about,
Sounds like.
well, what I'm talking about is the 2021 determination. It was a split 3-2 vote to reduce the clerk's salary from 84,000 to 75,000. There was not a basis for it. It was unjustified. It was unfair and intended, it seemed, to be try to inflict some political punishment.
But
And I thought that was inappropriate. And I would like to never have that kind of bad politics, that kind of meanness to reduce a working person's salary, to actually take that. I mean, it's not, and the one thing I will say that's personal is that, you know, I am a real person. I do have real children. Okay, I do live in this very expensive place where, you know, making, you know, far below the median of others. So what I'm saying is, I think that that was a bad decision. I handed out the chart to just show how it would have, you know, when I was comparable to other communities in 2019 is what the board's action did. The 2021 board, or the 2021 Compensation Commission and board voted to reduce. And I just have to say, had there been justification, had there been a reduction in workload, I would have gotten it. Had there been, wow, that clerk, wow, Jessica makes way too much money, totally out of line with other clerks, which was completely unsupported by any evidence. Had there been any data to support it, I would not be saying what I'm saying tonight, Monica. My concern is, I don't want that kind of arbitrary decision-making in our compensation commission. I don't want anybody else to go through what was done to me. And that's why I'm gonna be voting against this appointment tonight.
Is there other comment?
Yes,
Treasurer Palmer.
when any of us, and perhaps I have mistaken the motive or the reason for any of us being on this board or choosing to ask the voters to put us on this board. I feel when a person wants to be in public service, they're giving of themselves at times. They're not asking for a lot of high compensation. It's something internally they want to do for their community.
Well, there needs to be compensation.
Please wait your turn.
Now, yes, I agree. Reasonable compensation. Years ago, there was one person in clerk's office, treasurer's office, supervisor's office, and of course, the trustees were generally, as many of you are now, they weren't even involved in committees. It's just the way it started out years ago. Let's say decades ago, because it's that long.
Were you open on Thursdays from 9 to 12?
Jill.
No, when I started with school time. But anyway, basically, there was one meeting a year. July, right, one meeting a year. Whatever bills needed to be paid, they were taken care of, but of course, there was the report at the general meeting, I'm not even sure the
Yeah.
exact term.
Township meetings.
Then we grow, the needs grow. So that's what's happened as our area grew. You can't compare us with other townships because they're all different. And in some of these cases, some of the examples here, they're larger. Okay, so
No,
that's all
they're not.
part of the consideration. Now, Jessica has additional staff that's here, especially during elections. I mean, they've really worked hard. They need to be complimented and whatever you can do to compliment those women that have worked really hard on this election. And it's not going to end with the 27th. It's going to go on until November. Phenomenal people
Thank you, Donna.
that she has. But she has help.
Well, maybe with elections.
But anyway, I just have a hard time with these enormous salaries because of who you are. And you have help to do your job. I think they're out of line, including my recommended salary. I was shocked when I heard what they were recommending. I don't think it's right. I do not think it's right. I think the staff should be compensated because they're doing the work. Okay? And that's where I feel, or that's how I feel about officials, board salaries. Compensation fair. But these are out of line. Out of line.
Are you
That's my
done?
comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought trustee Carey was next, but
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm gonna interrupt her.
trustee Noel.
Okay. I have several concerns about this situation. This potential appointment has already been voted on by this board. And now we're here again. If we allow this to, evolve and we change our vote based on essentially no new information, I think it's inappropriate. And yes, now we have her resume, which is great. I mean,
Information.
we have,
So is what I
That-
just said.
but we also have Judy, who has now resigned from consideration or withdrawn her application for consideration for the other committee, and the DDA, I'm concerned about setting a precedent where this board revisits a decision that they've already made. And I don't think there's enough new information here. So, but given we have the new information, I think that Judy is still a highly qualified candidate. Monica may be too. I'm not saying she's not, but we do need new blood. We've talked consistently about trying to attract new individuals in the community onto our boards and commissions. So I'm concerned about that. Now I want to address a couple other issues. I am concerned about the point that Jessica has raised with this 2021 Compensation Commission determination, the recommendation to decrease the clerk's salary. That is virtually unheard of. That is, as a former clerk, I had never heard of something like this being done. Jessica is a hard worker, probably the hardest worker of anyone on this board. And her job is extremely demanding. I'm also concerned that I don't know what's going on here, but there's a hint of unfairness / possibly potential discrimination when this kind of recommendation is made to decrease the clerk's salary. Yes, she did, it changed 2 years later, but then tonight we heard some comments that were hypothetical and inaccurate about the comments about comparing Jocelyn Benson's salary to Jessica's salary, projecting into the future with incorrect and inaccurate information. And that concerns me greatly. And it should concern every member of this board. So I will not be supporting this tonight. I will be a no vote. I want to have someone who will use data to make decisions on the Compensation Commission and not emotion or political vendetta or whatever. I don't know, but it reeks of unfairness, and I cannot support this.
Carrie, do you want to speak?
Sure. Yes, and I agree with both Clerk Jessica and Trustee Noel, Kathy. And I watched all of those Compensation Commission meetings in 2021. I did a little bit in 2023. And as a trustee for a newbie, I was asked to, by the chair, I believe, to provide job description of what I do as a trustee. And it was considered, oh, those are just choices. But it wasn't a choice when in 2021 that the supervisor who's doing all this extra work deserves to have a raise in a salary. And I really felt offended by that because if anybody knows me, I put in 25 to 35 hours for this township. And Yes, so I found it very biased. And back in 2021, it was a different compensation commission. We have, I believe, 2 or 3 new members that had actually, there's 2 I can think of, John Boyd and Kathleen Brandt, that actually brought data. And the rest of
They
them,
also voted no on reducing the clerk's salary in 2021.
they were both on the, yes, Kathleen, that's right, because she
Right.
sued the
And
township to
Monica
get on
and
it.
the 2
Yeah,
others voted yes.
yeah. So I will be voting no.
And I share this, again, not to open up a conversation about my salary, which I know Monica opened up, which is fine. We can always talk about my salary. It's a public meeting. But what I'm saying is, you know, it's about the lack of data, and I saw, and I didn't describe all this on December 12th, right?
I'd like to call on the other trustees who haven't spoken yet.
But what I'm saying is, my point is that it
Can you
was
make it succinctly,
un-
please?
unfair. There was no basis given. And it did suggest that it was intended, you know, it was done for the wrong reasons. And I don't want that to happen again to anybody.
So I only have one question.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask Monica if I can, because clearly this centers around the 2021 decision to lower salary. Clearly, I mean, this is, you know, we can all beat around the bush here.
Does anybody want to talk about it?
Yeah, but I want to just,
Why don't you come
I'd
up
like to
with
preface, yeah, I'd like to hear this. So I have to agree with Clerk Flintoff that lowering somebody's salary is a pretty, that's a pretty bold move, even if, I mean, it's almost to the point where you say, hey, I want you fired. In our role, it'd be like, I want you gone. So I just need to understand, I'm not suggesting that you said that, I'm just saying that would be, I can understand where Jessica's coming from.
Sure.
I totally get that. So I need to understand what, help me understand that, help everyone here understand that
Do
process.
you want to have a copy of this to look at?
And lastly, what I find interesting is yet you, on the other side of the coin, voted for $96,000 salary increase in 2023. So I'm really, those are diametrically opposed. Yeah.
Right.
Well, one of the things is that when Jessica had come into the position was when the former clerk had resigned, or she had retired, took retirement early. And I believe there was, okay, so I'm gonna talk, you know, in terms of, do I have the exact penny, what have you, I'm gonna talk big picture here. But I think it was about a $20,000 increase, $20,000 at the time.
Yeah, $19,000.
And that was probably about a year and a half before that commission met.
2.5.
And, you know, one of the things that I've been consistent on is, you know, as I said earlier, first of all, I believe in people making money, but it was something where I also thought that, I'm somebody where I think you continually give increases, a $20,000 increase at that time, which was, geez, a 30% raise. 30% raises are something that I think is kind of uncomfortable. And I'm very respectful of money, and I'm very respectful of what you do. And one of the things that when that had occurred, it was actually, it wasn't as much about, and if you read, and if you look at those films, I think you'll see that the comment was made in terms of, this won't happen. We won't be reducing this. We're going to make a recommendation. And the recommendation is more about sending the message that those 30% raises are uncomfortable. And maybe we really need to think about those. Now that's something where, until that was said, first of all, I didn't even know that it was commission's first time they've gotten together. And it was, I didn't even know that that was a possibility. And I believe that everybody took it in terms of, this is something nobody ever expected it to happen. I think we talked about that in the meeting. But it was more about, from my perspective, of those big raises. And one of the things, talking about the vote being 3-2, and in this past go around, where, first of all, it's a different day and age. Per COVID and prices of things going up and what have you. And the fact that she didn't get a raise last time was something that needed to be built into that this time, in that particular scenario. If you talk about, the trustees, where you had a big raise that went on, and again, I think that you're worth the money, but I think big raises are something I just philosophically not really comfortable with. And that vote for that was 2-3, and John Boyd and I
both voted no on the trustee vote for this past go around. And it really wasn't about as much you not getting the raise as much as that great big percentage at that time.
Wait, I'm confused, Monica, because.
Mark, can I
because-
clarify?
Wait a second.
I'm-
Mark has the.
Yeah,
I know.
Let me codify a few things. But I'm a little confused, Monica, because in 2019, she was making $84,000.
I started on June 1st, 2019. I started this job. This is important because she's saying, Monica, and just because he doesn't know, you're saying a 30% raise, as if I'd gotten a 30% raise. No.
Position.
The position.
But this is important. Jessica Flintoff was appointed clerk on June 1st, 2019. And the clerk's salary was set at $84,000. That was a condition of my appointment.
I understand. I agree with you. I
That's
agree with
where I would start it.
And Monica, to that point, I got a tough time understanding why you would lower, and again, I understand you want to send a message and all that. I hear you about 30%. 30% beyond uncomfortable, 30% is ridiculous. First, I'm gonna put forward, the standard's 8 to 12% in industry, right? So 30% is ridiculous for anybody to get that kind of raise. But on the other hand, detracting somebody's salary from 84,000 to 71,000 or
75.
75, so 9,000, roughly 10%. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it's not certainly gonna motivate her.
Well,
Or
it's
are
really-
they?
it wasn't about-
The objective.
But it wasn't about Jessica as much as it was about a position getting that type of an increase.
But I need to say, but I gotta say something about the record here.
Supervisor has double.
No, hold on here. No, with the record on this. June 1st, 2019, I was appointed clerk. That is when $84,000 was agreed on by the board.
Wasn't
Before-
it unanimous?
It was 6-1, Donna dissenting.
Okay.
It was, but it was a board decision to hire me at that salary. 2 years go by. A compensation commission is created, my initiative, because I think it's a good idea. That then the compensation commission in 2021, there was first a vote to keep the clerk's salary at $84,000. It failed 2-3. So in that meeting, Monica, and you'll probably remember, Kathleen and John brought forth, they said, hey, you know what, looking at this, she'd already gotten, it's about right. You could have kept it the same. They voted 2-3 not to do that. They took a second vote, Mark, to say 3-2, lower it.
So again, I know you're wanting to do the right thing. I mean, you had it's not like you get, again, access to the private jet here at Scio Township. I thought there was one, there isn't a jet. I was lied to.
Tricked you.
I'm waiting to see if I can get my time on it. But what I find the contradiction here was so contradictory here, but yet then you approve a raise. So let's walk, okay, so I think I understand 2021. Now let's go to 2023. That juncture, obviously, and I think we're gonna stick to the clerk because I think it's germane to the clerk. I mean, if I'm really looking at this, we're just cutting through all the noise here. This is germane to the clerk. Then you vote to approve. So what changed?
Well, first of all, you had, Social Security went up by 8%. You had cost of living increases that had gone forward. You looked at that just in terms of the responsibilities and things that the clerk was doing, that was something where taking a look at that whole picture. And I think that there's a couple things that's difficult with the compensation commission and in elected officials. And it was funny because John had said, I think at the first meeting, something about, well, something like, with a review, and the review is every 4 years when you get elected, right? So it's not like a public, where I might go in and get a salary review or something like that. So it's a different sort of deal. And also separating that in terms of, okay, this is what your responsibilities are, and this is what you're doing. Thus, in terms of somebody's choosing to get more involved. And, Scio Township is expanding. Now, my understanding is that the population as such hasn't expanded, but it's getting bigger in some ways and it's smaller than others, and that you've got, more transition coming from Ann Arbor. You know, it's becoming, I think it's a little bit more on the map, and I think the demands are changing. I think the times are changing. So those were influences. You know, what I can say is I had a different perspective and probably knew more. And if anything, I would say that the vote in 2021 was certainly much less personal than the vote in 2023.
Okay, so I guess my last question would be, why in the heck do you even wanna be, I mean, yeah, obviously there's some friction here, it's not like there's, I don't think there's three people who probably aren't gonna send you some Christmas cards. So, that being said,
Why?
yeah, why, I mean,
As I mentioned earlier in my comments, that I think that the best solution usually comes through compromise and sharing differences of opinion. And I think if you only have one perspective, I don't think it's really going to I don't think the township benefits from everybody thinking alike. And so while I might look at it a little differently or throw some different things on it, I've learned from the board, and I like to think that, the board has learned from me. That it's something where it's an exchange of information, and I found my experience with the commission was that we were very respectful, and we had different, we came at it from different experiences and different perspectives, different views, and we had constructive conversation. And and came to a certain point. Some things we agreed on, some things we did not. But I think ultimately it's one of those things where the township, I think it benefits from people having differences of opinion.
got it, thank you. Okay. I don't know, John, if you have any questions,
No, what role did comps have in 2021 and what role did comps have in 2023?
The compensations or the comparisons,
Yeah.
those are hard. I mean, as Donna said, they're all a little different in finding organization or, other townships that, are clearly aligned. It's almost next to impossible, really. And so, we looked at the information. I can't say that it was something where so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing that. Pittsfield Township is a very different township than Scio in terms of the structure.
Responsibilities.
Yeah. And I think it's also something where this year, in terms of perhaps election year and also with the increase in salaries across the board, not just our board, but across, just professionally. Through COVID, there's been a big increase in salaries. People have been able to demand higher salaries. And thinking that, we want to be an attractive place to be. That we do, and I think that you folks put a lot of time into this. And, at the end of the day, time's the most valuable resource we've got.
So, what was the vote to take it to 96 on the commission? I've been poking around. I've got the 21
5-0.
minutes. What's that?
To 99, it was 5-0.
Everybody voted for it.
You said 99 or 96?
99.
99, okay. And you were in favor of that? You
Um,
voted for it?
I wasn't,
I voted for it.
it was another big raise, which was something that, philosophically, those things kind of talk to me loudly. And at the same time, it was something where that exchange of opinion and discussion, we put forth a methodology in terms of what we were using to make those decisions in terms of the numbers.
I don't have any other questions.
I just
for
have
her.
to clarify one more thing, John, though. When she says another big raise, I just want to be clear. It'd be the first raise in 5 years. Okay, just want to be clear.
I appreciate.
I know,
that.
it's just,
appreciate that.
I don't think it makes it sounding like
I'm
I've been
taking
getting
from
raises.
this that she's a little bit more of a fiscal conservative, maybe a little bit like Donna, because Donna voted against her own raise, if memory serves.
I think this is different.
And so,
I'm voting first.
so here's what I will say. I voted against this on December 12th because I didn't have a resume and she wasn't here to do the Q&A. One of the biggest things for me is that this is one of the few things that Will has the statutory right to appoint, subject to our approval. I certainly respect that approval processes, which is what's happening here. But Will gets to put forward who Will wants. And I need to have a reason to vote against her. And maybe this is enough, or maybe this isn't.
Arbitrary
No,
reduction.
I understand that. I
I'm
understand that.
giving you a reason.
I understand that, but I appreciate your perspective. I really do.
Truly. If a regular employee, that's a regular employee, be different. I'm discussing with John.
Well, I understand you're interrupting him during
Well,
his time.
and that, I mean,
Gee, it's the first time that you ever stopped anybody.
and I don't, that's okay to be, I don't mind being interrupted, Will. I appreciate you, keeping the time and the discussions moving. But, one of the things that was said, even by you, Jessica, that it was operating well. So to the extent that Will has the right to make this appointment, subject to our approval, that we have our resume. I've talked to others who said that she does a good job on the commission. I can see myself voting in support of this appointment, notwithstanding the valid objections that you raised, because it's his statutory appointment.
And another consideration though, John, we have 10 months before this commission meets. There is not just this seat, but another seat. And I would ask Will and Mark and you and Donna, to think about, again, what is going to be left in place in 2025?
If you remember, the last time I was okay letting this one ride. But our ordinance and the statute says subsequent members shall be appointed within 30 days after the term expires or vacancy occurs. In other words, why should Will get to appoint somebody when he's not gonna be around in a year or 2 years?
Right, but what I'm saying is, it's with the timing working out as it is, and I think we all know it's going to be tremendous turnover on this board. It seems that, I would just ask in this, final months of service for some of you to please support a candidate where there's going to be, at least near unanimous support for a commission.
And I don't know that we're ever
powerful
gonna get
position.
that on this board.
I
think we will.
think we absolutely would, especially for the compensation commission. And I would just say, there was one next door post put out and I haven't, fully done the template I was gonna do, but it was gonna be much more like a posting that said something like, apply for the compensation commission. I can't say that the next door post that Will did about a lot of different topics, including this, drew a lot of attention. So I gotta say, John, I actually do think we could have many candidates for a compensation commission that would get this full board's approval. I really do, John. And we have the time and there's no rush. I'm just, look, I wouldn't put this all out here. I wouldn't put this all out here with Monica. I wouldn't put this all out here for my own sake, if it weren't actually important, but we need people who make fair decisions based on data.
I'm gonna close this out with, again, I'm contemplating this. So Monica, I think I run a business, run an operator, and I know you're highly skilled in town. I know some of the company organizations you work with. Obviously, you're definitely an intellectual person. You know money and finance way better than me. But I think when this initial decision in 2021 was made, it may have been made financially, but when you make financial decisions, there are also human impact to those decisions sometimes. And I'm just gonna be blunt, I'm not convinced that was taken into account. When you diminish someone's salary, that is that's a deep wound. That really is a deep wound. It really is. And I can understand why Jessica takes it personally. I gotta stand with her on that one. And one thing I wanna do with my team is I don't wanna demoralize my team. And ever taking somebody a salary is like saying you're not worthwhile. It just goes down to such a human element.
Mark, I know.
And I'm just trying to say where I think I'm gonna have to kind of stick with my.
Mark, can I just add something because I think there's a piece of information that's missing here. The 2021 vote or determinations from the compensation commission included a decrease in the salary for the supervisor as well, and I accepted it. one of the things that the members of the Compensation Commission were well aware of is that you cannot, as a compensation commission, reduce someone's salary without their permission. An elected official's salary cannot be reduced during their term in office unless they agree to it in writing. And there was no way that Jessica was going to agree to a reduction in her salary. So they knew that whatever it was that they did in that direction was going to have no effect. In my case,
So the message.
they chose, the determination was to reduce from my salary, which was then at that time $72,000 for the supervisor's
You paid
position.
yourself.
It was 72,000 as voted on and approved by a majority of the Board of Trustees before the Compensation Commission started meeting, before it was fully formed. That was my salary. That's what I was being paid as supervisor. The determination from the Compensation Commission was, we view this job as a part-time job, not a full-time job. That was in
Because we
conflict.
hired a manager.
That was in conflict with the vote of the board and the salary that existed at that time. So unless I took action to accept it in writing,
legally
it would
doubled
not,
your
it
salary.
would not have taken effect, but I did. I accepted it. I, in fact, accepted the determination of the Compensation Commission. I honored their determination by accepting it in writing. It took a little bit of effort, but we got it through and reduced the supervisor's salary
From what to what?
from $72,000 to $40,000.
That was a
And
whole
then they
different
gave
issue.
you-
Well, so what? It
44,000.
was a reduction. It was a determination from the same Compensation Commission. They knew that those determinations would not take effect unless accepted by the elected officials. In my case, I accepted it. Jessica said, no, I don't accept this. I will not accept this. And so her salary stayed, as they knew it was likely to do so, at $84,000 a year, which was an increase over the prior clerk's salary
That was
in
a
from
term higher.
65,000 to
Wow.
Just like our previous manager made
Yeah, our
110,000
yeah, we
and our
gave-
new
we gave our
makes
manager-
more.
Well, whatever. We gave our paid, employee
Wait,
a salary.
They raise your salary to
Well, I
44,000.
gotta respond to something.
Well, also,
Question.
these are charter
Okay,
townships that
support.
these are being.
They're not all charter
That's
townships.
all the same for the clerk. I will say that, I'll just say, I think there's some inaccurate equivocating between the supervisor's reduction and the clerk's
Yes.
reduction.
Yeah.
And there was a lawsuit underway, it was a whole big mess.
And a
Okay,
recall.
so
We had a recall.
So
vote now.
a whole different
Indeed.
thing, but what I wanna say is I stand by what I say about the Compensation Commission's recommendation, board's adoption of that recommendation. I did refuse to take it, but what I am saying is I don't want those kind of politics and that kind of unfair determination.
Well, it's
in the
unfair to hang it
compensation.
all on this one
Commission.
person.
So I support your call for the question.
And I'm not hanging on Monica whatsoever.
No.
All right, so the question has been called, right? So
And I support.
Has there been a
We're gonna talk about this all night long.
Who
Who called the question? I just.
So-
You,
and I
okay, so
support.
called by Brazo.
Has there been a
And
motion?
I support. He just made a motion and I
Oh,
support.
I didn't hear the motion. I'm
Oh, is
sorry.
There wasn't
I
a
didn't hear
motion, so,
We'll go all night long with this.
We're calling the question, but there's no question.
so.
No motion.
So we need to have the motion to confirm the supervisor's appointment of Monica Knowles to the Compensation Commission for a term commencing on February 6, 2024, including on June 30th, 2028, which I should point out, as I said earlier, is in compliance with our new policy. So it's a shorter term than under statute because it's in compliance with our new policy, newly adopted policy. So is there support for that motion? Okay, so moved by Hathaway, support by Palmer. Now we have a motion. You are calling the question on the motion, I take it, trustee Brazo,
We could
and,
just,
and
yeah. or you
support,
could-
all right.
yes.
Well, okay, or we could just, or we
Without
just call the
objection.
question.
Yeah, why don't you just without objection call?
Without objection, please call the roll on the motion.
So this is the motion. Sorry, well. The motion to confirm the supervisor's appointment. Okay.
Yes.
Per our rules of order, we're starting tonight with Riser. Riser? Hathaway?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Flintoff? No. Brazo?
I gotta say no.
Carrie?
No.
Sorry, I gotta say no.
Noel?
No.
Motion fails 3-4.
All right.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Could we take a short break?
Yeah, I'd like a short break.
All right, well, let's take a 5-minute break. That would take us to about 9:01. Not by that clock.
Okay, everybody, please try to be back though within 5. I don't like these dragging out.
Oh, here, yeah.
She doesn't have a turn. That's why I was trying to get really hard. Just missing. Those recommendations that can so lower. Just the conventions. No, I will do that. Well, they are, even though that's what I was trying to explain, is that it's disproportionate salary. Increase over.
That's true. I agree with what you're saying. Well, but you don't, at the end of the day, you don't say, well, no, I'm taking it. You can't give somebody say something. Because the moral is that human being. Okay. I have a funny, given a raise on. Oh, right. We've never taken.
It was mentioned, it didn't get into a lot of discussion. As you cannot reduce elected officials. That's all.
That was a message.
For me, the tough part is trying to do a job. And because everybody doesn't really understand the end make those type of decisions. I don't know, it's easy to look at things on the surface, so I try to like
Do you still want to be on that? Do you still want to be on it?
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to her. I did hear back from her that she was busy at a volunteer thing and she was in all day, and so she didn't have a chance to call back, but.
If she wants, I'm just
I don't want to.
No, but I'm,
Yeah, basically we heard from the clerk that now she's willing to wait. That's what I heard.
I think we should fill it. We're statutorily obligated to fill it, but I would, it came up, we had our say, and now let's move on.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
When we come back, we'll do.
Jesse was a whole. So.
Yes.
Make sure we don't.
Except for, I get this, okay, so they challenged me.
You know what?
So my focus was certain providing personal. Was.
Okay, back in time.
You're on the
Where's the? What?
You're on time, we're just counting people
Oh,
who are on
okay.
time.
But,
Back.
All right, 9:01, I have.
Yeah, it is 9:01. Right, so that's a little- on a working.
We still have.
Are we?
I guess we are.
yeah, just.
Okay.
Ancient then, right? Okay, just kind of, you know.
We're coming back together, reconvening.
Is it okay to do a resolution or motion that urging you to consider appointing Judy Monk for DDA?
You can do whatever you
not-
want.
not DDA,
Don't ask for it, okay?
Well,
So-
Compensation Commission.
Compensation.
I meant compensation, so I guess, you know,
She is currently our only applicant.
so I guess I would do I'd like to move that the board urge Supervisor Hathaway to exercise his statutory duty and appoint Judy Monk for the Compensation Commission, to the extent she's still willing to do that, given that we've seen her resume, we've heard from her, and if she's still interested in that, that's something that I urge you to do.
Support.
Support.
Quite a lot of motions.
So I'll finish.
It's a resolution urging him to,
Can I-
a motion urging him to appoint her. We can't make him.
As
but
a
it's just that-
seconder, can I make a friendly revision to that?
What is it? Yeah.
Okay, to urge the supervisor to appoint Judy Monk to the Compensation Commission?
Yes,
To appoint her.
Or,
No,
appoint.
that's the correct
It's
word.
appoint,
Okay,
appoint.
okay,
Be confirmed by.
Yeah, subject to the board's approval.
obviously, yeah.
Confirmation.
So there's a motion on the table by Riser, support by Flintoff, to urge supervisor to appoint Judy Monk to the Compensation Commission.
It seems like an odd thing for the supervisor to vote on.
I was just gonna say, you can recuse.
I don't know that I can.
You don't have a conflict, you can't. So you want to ask for discussion or a vote, Bill?
No, why don't we just go ahead and vote?
So we're voting on urging, to urge?
Yeah,
to
we're
That's all we should do.
Okay, that's. this is
All those in
weird.
favor say aye.
I'd like a roll call vote.
okay.
Riser,
Yes, I made the motion.
Hathaway,
No,
You
Palmer.
want to urge yourself?
I don't want to
You
urge
please,
myself.
yeah, everybody, hey, please no talking during, you guys, point of order, no talking during roll call vote. All right, so we've got yes, Riser, no Hathaway, Palmer,
Yes.
Flintoff, yes, Brazo,
Yes.
Carrie,
Sure, yes.
Noel.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1 with Will dissenting.
You said 3.
Sorry, this is-
I'm not gonna hurt myself.
It's his statutory.
No, I urge myself sometimes. I did too.
All right, yeah, that sounds a little weird, doesn't it? All right, so now we are moving on to new business. The first item is, because we removed J1, the first item is J2. And that is the 7970 West Liberty Historic Farm Real Estate Listing. This is a agenda item prepared by Township Manager Parker, so I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Several weeks ago, maybe at least 2 or 3 months ago, the board had a discussion regarding the property located at 7970 West Liberty. And as part of the discussion, it had been suggested and recommended that we consider selling the property. And as part of the process, bringing back the listing agreement with the terms and conditions that had been discussed by the board. So included in the listing agreement that is attached is information related to the sale price, which is recommended at $325,000. And then in addition to that, there's also restrictions included in the listing agreement. Our Township attorney is here tonight, and I was going to ask her to maybe comment related to their review of the listing of,
We also have with us.
and also
Realtor.
Mr. McCauley is here as well.
So you want to come?
Thank you, Joyce.
Why don't you come up in case there's questions?
So we did add a couple of things to the listing agreement. Specifically, we wanted anyone who is interested in purchasing the property to understand that the parcel will not be able to be split. That will be a deed restriction. And then also, the property would not be able to be used for certain conditional uses such as event space, party barn, or similar activities. When it comes to the point where we're actually recording a deed, that would be more specific in the deed. So this is just kind of a general information about restrictions. I also wanted to make sure that the board knew that we need to make one other change to this listing agreement. It says when you get to it doesn't look like the pages are numbered, so it's the second, it's 2 of 5 in the residential profile sheet. Where it has the public remarks that will be part of the listing. It says that the home is being sold by Scio Township through an RFP process. It's going to be stricken because we're not actually doing an RFP process.
Good.
So my apologies for not catching that before this came to you. Other than that, we've reviewed this and approved it and don't have any issues with it. There won't be any specifics listed on the seller's disclosure statement because the seller has never occupied the property and therefore makes no representation regarding.
And
That's a question.
I was gonna say, Patrick, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we shift to
Jessica
questions?
had a question.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna shift to questions after.
Well, is there a presentation or can we just talk about this listing agreement real quick?
Well, we have with us the realtor who's the other.
I'm just here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Didn't mean to be rude. I was just
No,
trying to be
that's-
efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be efficient.
So I have a
Go
question for
ahead.
Mariah. Mariah,
Yes.
thank you. Aside from striking the reference to RFP, are there any other recommended changes? Is what is currently the model motion says of the proposed listing agreement? Should we assume that it'll be this agreement minus reference to the RFP?
You should.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And to John Boyd's earlier points, this evening in public comment, did you have any comment on that, Mariah?
Well, I'm gonna give you my caveat, I'm not a realtor.
We knew that.
But I think that I don't read these two things as being the same, that the listing within 3 business days of signing a contract and the within 1 business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit. Those look like 2 different timing categories to me. So I think the first one that's designated in green, the way I'm reading this is that it's so that we don't sign a contract that then just sits in someone's drawer somewhere. So within
Right.
3 days of signing the contract, it will be available for the public to look at it. Now that is we're actually not doing that. So this is another thing that we probably needed to talk about. We have a list date of March 15th. Is that right?
That was a rough date that in discussions when I've met with Joyce and Will, that's what we've discussed, roughly around March 15th. That can change depending on circumstances of the market or circumstances at the house. Is it ready to be marketed by March 15th? We will determine that, but that can be flexible on my end. I'm completely
But when
flexible.
this contract is signed, Patrick, you're not going to be trying to privately sell it before it's publicly marketed. I think that that's the question.
No, and again, so when you sign on to be the designated agent for the township or any home seller, you're basically signing on to represent their fiduciary interest. And that is not in your interest for me to go to try to sell it off market when potentially there's hopefully 5 or 6 buyers that really want to buy it. Maybe bid up the price, or at the very least, we find the right buyer for the property, which I think is going to be the more important thing. It's going to be a very specific buyer, I think, that will want to take this on, and we'll want to probably try to vet those contracts as good as we can to pick the right buyer for the property.
And did you want to just mention, when we met with you early on, and in fact, I think when you did a previous presentation to the board, you had talked about how the reason that we got connected with you originally was through our consultant who works in historic districts, because you have some experience specifically with historic properties and also rehabilitating this type of properties. And
Yeah, so long before I was a realtor, that was my background. I was a contractor, renovated hundreds of historic homes. My family had a painting and restoration business. We did everything from windows to, lead paint abatement, all that stuff. And then I've been a realtor for 9.5 years. Before I was a real estate agent, I was also on the Historic District Commission in Ann Arbor for 7 years. And I guess to rebut the point that was made earlier in the meeting, I've sold 236 houses in my career in the last 9.5 years. And last year I sold 25 houses for I think 13 million. And I'm in the top probably 5% of realtors in the state of Michigan. And the reason I don't look like I have any sales since 2016 is because I'm on Brett Flewelling's real estate team, and he gets all the credit. That's slightly unfortunate, but I also can tap into his wisdom because he's probably one of the greatest real estate minds in the area. And I've actually talked to him about this property many times. And so I think I'm well qualified, and hopefully my historic background, because what I envision happening is we're going to get calls from these agents or potentially buyers, and they're just going to have a million questions about what can and can't be done about with the property. And while I can't say what the Historic Commission might approve or not approve, I can tell them pretty confidently what the standards say and where they might run into problems. And again, having the no party barn thing in the listing probably does help. That was one thing that the township wanted to add. And I think walking potential buyers or their agents through the process is going to be, and getting it to the finish line, that's going to be the hard part. So hopefully my experience in selling real estate and in historic preservation is going to be helpful.
so we have a report with this property that talks about contributing buildings and non-contributing and all of that. And I'm assuming that will be part of any conversation that you're going to have with prospective.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the thorniest issue, I think, as we've discussed it, that when I was here last time, that's probably gonna be the trickiest part of selling this, is getting a potential buyer to take on the risk of, can you restore this building? Can you tear it down? And I think there's probably gonna be some extended due diligence periods in many of these contracts we see. And again, I'm hoping there's going to be many contracts we can choose from. It's probably going to be slightly unorthodox just because there's a lot of due diligence that's going to have to go into any purchase of this property, whether it's, what is it going to take to restore these buildings? I mean, even our appraiser that we tried to hire at the township here, he was reluctant to give a value because, it's unknown what it's going to take to make this property whole. So somebody's going to have a lot of experience, and hopefully has good contractors they can call on. And lots of money. And it probably will have to be a cash sale also. Just because financing, it's going to be very tricky, if not impossible.
You said probably, but I thought we wrote required in here.
I mean, there are construction, mortgages and stuff like that too. I think it's 203K loans. Nobody ever uses them because they're very.
I'm not arguing on which way to go. I'm just clarifying. We say cash sale only. Is that what we want to say?
Yeah, so
It's about financing.
Right.
The reason-
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
that's, I just wanted to
Yes.
verify.
Yes, we want that.
The reason I think that needs to be in there is just because we can probably weed out a lot of people that are not gonna be able to finance this. Cause we'll be getting, I mean, it's all the time we get unqualified buyers calling us, asking questions about a property. But this one is particularly difficult because you basically probably cannot finance it. You'd have to find a very, very daring bank that's gonna do a portfolio loan or something like that, and it's a challenge in this market.
And just a process question, is there any other cleanup that we're intending to do before we put it on the market? It's ready to
Yes.
go? And any other cost?
Yeah, we're gonna have to, we talked about this, we're gonna have to have some kind of professional cleaning crew, firm.
Just clean it.
Oh.
Cleaning out the house.
Minor costs, minor.
Inside, not,
Yeah, not the giant pile
No,
of
we're not talking about doing renovations or
Yeah,
remodeling or
nothing like
anything
that.
like that. We're just talking about a
Okay.
cleanup of.
Where people can.
Minor costs and we can put it on the market. Perfect.
to walk
We probably will have to tie off some areas with safety.
There's
tape.
gonna be lots of caution tape used.
Great.
And I think, I don't know who we should consult about this, but I was planning on going out there and probably Will or somebody else from the board should be out there with me. Because again, the liability of having people, even though they're with their realtor, who's supposed to be keeping an eye on them, there is some liability with having people, in those barns. So we want to make sure that that is well marked off where they can and can't go. And actually, to the listing, so there's the public remarks and then there's the agent only comments. We may want to put something in the public remarks about not walking the property without a scheduled showing or your agent. Because that I think is probably the township's biggest liability. I mean, not making very much money on this or losing money on this is one thing, but if somebody gets hurt and sues, that's probably not good.
There are no trespassing signs.
oh,
Well, yeah, there's lots of no trespassing signs right
That
now.
helps.
Doesn't always stop everybody.
Right, I know, yeah.
so,
And caution tape is only so effective too, but
so
Go ahead.
I want to move to approve the terms and conditions of the proposed listing agreement between Scio Township and Reinhardt Realty and authorize the township manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the township, subject to review and approval of the township attorney.
Support?
Moved by Riser, support by Flintoff. Please call the roll.
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Flintoff, yes, Brazo.
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Noel.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Patrick, for.
Thank you,
there.
Patrick.
Go sell it.
Yeah, that's right.
Lots of money from.
Go team. All right, that brings us to item J3. This is the Middle Huron Partnership Renewal. Thank you all so for waiting patiently.
No problem, happy to be here.
Bob, do you want to come up too?
Sure, come on up, Bob. We're a tag team.
And I will just briefly introduce, this is a renewal of an agreement with the Huron River Watershed Council, and we have with us Amanda Payne.
I am Andrea Payne.
Andrea, sorry, Andrea Payne. And Bob Hyde, who is the township's representative to the Huron River Watershed Council from the Planning Commission.
All right, so I'll just share a few words and then we can hop into question and answer. But thank you, trustees, so much for having me this evening to discuss Scio Township's renewal and their participation in the Middle Huron Partnership. My name is Andrea Payne. I'm a program coordinator with the Huron River Watershed Council, where I facilitate and coordinate the Middle Huron Partnership. The partnership is a collaboration of nearly 20 municipalities, universities, public school systems, and county agencies all the way from Chelsea down to Ypsilanti, working together to reduce pollution, share stormwater best practices, and improve the quality of the Middle Huron River and its tributaries, including Honey Creek, which runs through Scio Township. The partners have actually been working together since 1996 to reduce phosphorus runoff entering Fort and Belleville lakes towards the goal of meeting the total maximum daily load, also called the TMDL, for the lakes. And over that time period, we've seen a 29% reduction in phosphorus loading into the lakes, largely thanks to partner investments from communities like Scio Township. In addition, the scope of our collaborative work has grown over time to include new pollutants of concern and other initiatives to improve stormwater management and water quality in our communities. Continued partner support enables HRWC to monitor the quality of the Middle Huron watershed, educate residents on how to protect local water, develop new projects to reduce pollution, advocate to limit additional phosphorus sources into the Middle Huron, and assist partners with state stormwater and wastewater permit requirements. Scio Township has been a paying member of the partnership since 2009, and I'm here today to ask for the township's continued financial support for the partnership. In partnership with Scio Township, the Middle Huron partners have developed a project to reduce bacteria into Honey Creek. We've conducted extensive water quality monitoring across Honey Creek Shed to identify pollutant sources and adopted the best management practices to curb bacteria pollution entering the Huron from Scio Township. We're excited to continue working with the township on these efforts and additional initiatives over our next 5-year work plan. To support your decision-making, I want to provide some detail on the contract and financial ask in front of you today. As a background, 65% of the partnership budget is allocated to partner and participating municipalities. Municipal allocations are based on the combined area and population percentages within the Huron River watershed. The budget is based on the benefit of different activities to certain participating partners, with 10% of that budget allocated to point sources or wastewater treatment plants, 40% to general watershed activities, and 50% to stormwater activities. Scio Township's allocation includes both the general watershed and the point source allocations due to Loch Alpine. The overall 5-year budget for the entire partnership increased by about 25% in this new 5-year permit cycle or 5-year work plan cycle. It's based on a 5-year permit cycle with Eagle, largely due to increasing permit requirements for our stormwater partners. As a result, most of that budget increase is being carried by our municipal separate storm sewer system or MS4 permittees in the Middle Huron, given the increasing allocation to stormwater activities. However, that largely doesn't impact Scio since you're not an MS4 permit holder. Your average allocation across the 5-year contract period has increased from around $14,000 annually to our previous contract, from the previous contract to around $16,000 annually during this new contract period. Lastly, our budget is a conservative estimate, so it's a not to exceed amount so that we don't have to come back to you and amend the contracts in the future. We will likely not charge the full amount over the 5-year life of the contract. At this point, nearly all of our partners have signed contracts committing to this work plan and budget, and we really hope that Scio Township will do the same and continue as a partner in this important effort to improve the health of the Huron River. So thank you all so much for considering this, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Bob, do you want to add anything? No. All right, are there questions? Trustee Bill.
I have a couple questions. You heard me speak earlier about the NPDES permit related to discharge of dioxin contaminated water into Honey Creek. Do you ever do anything with that? Do you comment during public comment periods for NPDES permits?
Yeah, we largely for this effort focus on non-point sources, so stormwater runoff and other related pollutants like phosphorus, bacteria, sediments, and largely do not focus on things like dioxin. However, we do submit comments to try to limit the addition of additional phosphorus sources in the Middle Huron. So a lot of the on-site wastewater plants, we do submit comments on behalf of the partnership, encouraging Eagle not to allow those additional permits because they've already allocated all of their point sources underneath that total maximum daily load policy.
So I know that this issue was discussed with our recent application for a community wastewater system that was close to Mill Creek, but it wasn't going to discharge directly into Mill Creek. Did you do anything with reviewing that system?
If it didn't discharge into the Huron River, then we likely did not review it.
And I don't recall any review being
This
done.
is Heritage Woods.
Could we enlist your review for a future such?
Yeah, we would be more than happy to. So Bob will attend sort of our Middle Huron Partners meetings. And, you know, since we work with so many communities, we can't always keep our ear to the ground on a lot of these things coming up. So look definitely to you all to reach out to myself or my colleague Rick Lawson, and we are happy to draft comments both on behalf of the partnership, but also to support your community in evaluating these requests as they come up.
I had one more question regarding PFAS.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I know that's more upper Huron River issue, but what are you doing in regard to PFAS?
Yeah, so PFAS is another point source that we don't work on underneath this partnership specifically, but the Huron River Watershed Council more broadly is doing a lot on PFAS. Currently, we're working on a state level to advocate for a polluter pay legislation that will put the accountability on those industrial polluters rather than on taxpayers to clean up pollutants such as PFAS. A lot of what we're doing also is education throughout the watershed, so encouraging residents to be aware of where to look out for PFAS, that white shiny foam that they can find, and also encouraging people not to consume fish from the Huron River due to lingering PFAS contamination. In addition, we collaborate with a lot of other nonprofits in Southeast Michigan to encourage additional review processes from Eagle with the maximum, they're called MCLs, maximum contaminant limits at the state level. So doing additional sort of advocacy towards lowering those specifically for drinking water.
I know there's been discussion about, I'm on the CARD group, CARD wanting more proactive advocacy from the Huron River Watershed Council. And I think that that's a sentiment that's shared by other people too.
That's what I was gonna ask. Measure.
A
dioxane, Kathy?
Well, it's really broader than dioxane.
That would be cards.
But it is broader than dioxane. It's not just dioxane. And I think that there's been a concern that the Huron River Watershed Council has been a bit conservative with advocating for tighter controls, particularly with Eagle.
Well, sitting on attending the meetings for the partners, I would be Scio's advocate. So I'll be glad to take anything from CARD and bring it to their attention.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. So the partnership really only advocates related to phosphorus and nutrient issues related to TMDL. But I hear your concern about sort of the need for a little bit more of an aggressive watchdog on environmental issues. And I do want to let you know that our organization has recently increased its capacity in the advocacy space. Within the past few months, we've added a government relations director to our staff who is doing a much better job of sort of keeping track of things happening at the state, federal, and local level, and hopefully can increase that advocacy capacity of our organization. Yes.
Kind of new here a little bit. Regarding the Huron River Watershed Council, what is the difference? We have the Middle Huron Partners and then Huron River Watershed. Pardon me?
The regular membership dues, is that your question?
No. What's the difference between the two? Because
Yeah.
I had only heard of the watershed council before reading this part. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, this seems different.
Yeah, so we facilitate this group, the participating members are the Middle Huron partners. We're just sort of one of the people that helps that group to come together. We sort of facilitate and bring everyone to the table to discuss these issues. It actually was originally facilitated by the County Water Resources Commissioner's Office. Previously, Janice Bobrin sort of started this initiative underneath, it was previously called the Stormwater Advisory Group. But we merged it together and ended up taking leadership of this group over time.
Okay.
But the Huron River Watershed Council, we work on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Stormwater just being one of the lanes that we work on.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
that explanation.
You're welcome.
And I would also like, I don't remember in the past year reading a report.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share
And
those.
this is, of course, I'm going to support anything that helps the environment, but, for the most part, but, yeah, this is a big ask and, to have regular reports so we know what's going on.
Most definitely, and that's
Good on Bob.
that's something that I think, with Bob now attending, I think you'll get much more frequent reports. We share those out quarterly to our partners. And I think over the past few years, with just leadership transition, we haven't had a consistent representative from Scio Township at our meetings, but with Bob's representation at the partner meetings, I think that'll make its way to you more frequently.
Thank you.
So my question, it has to do with the Galvin plume, it has to do with dioxane and Scio's. What role will you folks have with the dioxane, either in the groundwater or which makes its way to the Huron River, which is Barton Pond, which is a lot of people in Scio Township's drinking water, which is Honey Creek. So what role will you folks have in helping us advocate either with Eagle or on the new NPDES, the discharge? There's a comment period coming up for that. There's an EPA Superfund site, and there's gonna be Federal Registry comment period. Is like, can we, in exchange for some of our fund, count on the Huron River Watershed Council support in seeing to it that the EPA or Eagle do whatever they can to help dioxane and Washtenaw County and the Huron, in this watershed with dioxane? Or is that not on the to-do list?
Not on the to-do list specifically of the Middle Huron Partnership, which is the contract that we're looking at today, but I can guarantee you that the Huron River Watershed Council is very closely tracking the dioxane issue. Historically, we were an intervener with the whole issue.
Right.
Currently, we're not as involved as we previously were from a legal perspective, but are continuing to very closely follow this issue and will commit to continued advocacy on behalf of Scio Township and the health of the Huron.
Andrea, thank you for your work and for all of your colleagues' work. You guys are awesome. I know you do a ton of stuff on a budget. And Bob, thank you for being our liaison. Just to echo what Jillian says, I think coming up with some sort of regular schedule of reports, whatever works for you, Bob, whether it's, presentations, written reports, or forwarding, reports that whatever flow works. I think more information is great. I did have, one process question. Is this, if we wanted to request like an evaluation of natural features of a particular piece of land that we might be interested in conserving, could we request that of you?
100%. That is part of the services that we offer to our member municipalities. We have a natural areas assessment program, also called NAEP, and that's been going on for nearly 30 years at this point. We've done a lot of natural features assessments of different parcels to determine sort of feasibility for preservation, but would be happy to work or connect you with my colleague Kate Laramie, who coordinates that
But that's not
project.
underneath the partnership.
No, it's
Well,
not
that's not
under
this
it's
partnership.
not part of the partnership, but that's a free project and program that we have for any resident or municipality.
So it's free. So if you got the request from Bob, okay, and I would just ask this board to please rely on Bob as our liaison for any of that request, because I think things could percolate up from parks or LPC or other things. And then just another question about the Loch Alpine Sanitary Authority. I, always think about that wastewater system up above the Huron River. And Scio Township and Webster Township jointly govern the Loch Alpine Sanitary Authority. So is there any particular issues or actions issues for the river that we should be aware of related to the Loch Alpine system? I know you seem to write it up every year, but I don't always understand the technical detail.
Yeah, I would say currently a lot of wastewater treatment plants are currently feeling a lot of the stress of new regulations regarding PFAS. So I know that that's currently a hot button issue for a lot of wastewater treatment plants being able to afford those additional implementation requirements underneath their NPDES permit. So that's something that HRWC can assist you with, is finding that funding to be able to satisfy those permit requirements and additional sort of technology to implement to be able to best meet those requirements. Additionally, phosphorus is always something that we're tracking as part of this partnership, and discharges from point sources like Loch Alpine. Our communities in the Middle Huron have invested billions in improving their wastewater treatment plants. And this is sort of what this forum is for, is shared collaboration, identifying best management practices, and working together as a joint geography to achieve that TMDL. You're welcome.
One thing people may not know, I learned this when I was serving on the planning commission, like and John. The Huron River Watershed Council did a township-wide assessment for Scio Township, I think in 2003, 2004, that actually sort of is the basis for a lot of the efforts to do land preservation in Scio Township. So and that information informed not only our land use master plan process, but also the criteria that the LPC adopted originally after it was created by the voters in 2004. Yeah, so a lot of the land preservation that you see in Scio Township is informed by work that the Huron River Watershed Council did in partnership with the township, 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that's still a service that we offer, is conducting, we call them green infrastructure workshops. So we could sit down with the planning commission and talk through opportunities for land preservation from a river-friendly perspective. In addition, we also support reviewing master plans and drafting ordinances. This again is sort of separate from the Middle Huron Partnership, but still is something that I just want to encourage you all to consider as a service that we do provide as part of your general HRWC member dues, which is a separate fee. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I'm so thrilled to hear that it's still informing a lot of your decision-making today.
I'm gonna move for this, but before I do, of all your participating municipalities, do any of them have bans on fertilizers of a certain type, phosphorus or whatever?
So we technically have a statewide ban on the application of phosphorus fertilizer, but implementation of that is a little iffy. Technically, the sale of it is not permitted, but it still is on the shelf. So it's a little bit tricky, the phosphorus fertilizer piece, because technically it started as local ordinances that were passed around 20 years ago, and then it was able to be elevated to the state level. We're also working with a lot of our lake communities currently on ordinances to ban fertilizer, any type of fertilizer application within a certain buffer of the edge of the lake. Obviously, you all are more of a creek shed or a river community, so it would be a little bit different, but I'm happy to send you sort of some of that language and then also additional documentation on the historic phosphorus
I'd be
fertilizer
curious what-
works.
How Scio is with respect to our phosphorus input into creeks and or the river. But before that, I would like to move to approve the attached Middle Huron Partners Agreement with the Huron River Watershed Council with payment of the annual fee to come from the contracted services in the Watershed Council budget, subject to a review and approval by the township.
It's already
attorney.
been approved.
The township attorney's already done
Okay.
it.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah, I've approved it for you and like 4 of my other.
okay, all right, okay. Then I don't need the addendum. All right.
Yeah, and I just want to sort of respond to your one comment. Honey Creek is doing great in terms of phosphorus. So in terms of what's coming from Scio Township, Honey Creek is showing improvements and a decline in phosphorus. E. coli is still a challenge and a sticky wicket in Scio Township. And that's, as I mentioned, one of the things that we've been working with you all on and will hopefully continue to work on in the next 5-year work plan. But all this data is available online and encourage you all to check it out on our website and dive in a little deeper if you're interested. But thank you all so much, and we appreciate your continued support.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
So
you.
moved by Riser, support by Hathaway. Please call the roll.
Riser?
Yes.
Hathaway?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Flintoff, yes, for those. Carrie?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Motion adopted.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Well done.
All right.
Okay, so that brings us to item G1. This is the proposal from Interior Environments for the clerk's stand-up desk and new workspace in the utility department. So funding for 2 separate but related items from the same provider. This is prepared by Christy Aiken, can't really turn to her, but perhaps Township Manager Parker.
Sure. As we've expanded with our staff, there's a need for additional space, and the space in the utilities department is now being occupied by some of our new employees. And the utilities director requested the furniture for one of the areas where right now is pretty open. It's an open area for the utility tech positions so that they could share a space. So this workspace would be for that purpose.
It's very efficient. And the stand-up desk, it was my request. I work a lot and have requested one of those up-down desks to support my body. Christy did some research and found one that fits into the current configuration of the office and matches the office furniture, so it can be moved around for future use.
Everybody
when
should
I'm
have a
not
stand-up desk, man. That is like,
I'm thinking of having one.
it's there, change your life. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna support this. Donnie, you were the one that told it, so.
Well, I did, and I was gonna find out about the stand-up desk because I keep seeing bills and bills and bills for all kinds of stuff all the time. I thought, why do we need a stand-up desk? But now I understand the reason behind it. And that,
Yeah, it's not good for a human being. It was more than like 30-40 minutes.
so
Go up and down about every 10 minutes. It's,
Yeah,
you can do it, Donna. Give it yourself.
So
Everybody should stand up.
During.
I'm up and down so much,
Oh, yeah?
I'm
All right.
probably more than sitting. But I still am going to caution us to really look at the expenditures that we're asked to approve. We are going to be in trouble, I'm not kidding, in a couple of years. So let's please be careful. Let's look at everything carefully.
it
So
should
that's
come in
my-
front of the board for us to review.
So if I move,
And I do.
No,
do
wait, I
wanna-
have
I
something.
just want to confirm these funds are budgeted.
Okay, good. And yeah, when I read it, it sounded like they were cramming all this furniture into your office and I was like, but now it makes more sense. But on this invoice, this proposal, if you look at the top, it says Scio Township Fire. And then it has 827 North Z, 39,600 Lewis Drive. So I think this is under G1.
Oh, I see what you're saying on the not on the cover sheet, but on the invoice.
Yeah, it's the Scio Township fires on every single one. So I don't know why that's there unless we did business with them before.
Yeah, they're the regular company that Christie works with to maintain, repair and replace all of our office
Okay, so
equipment.
that needs to be changed though, just for as well record purposes, but I don't know where the Lewis Drive came in.
They know who they're talking to, and Christie knows who she's talking to.
It looks like they reused another.
Okay,
invoice.
but for records.
Yes.
I mean, whenever I
right,
have anything.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, okay, we need to vote on this?
Yeah.
Oh, we
Or did
probably,
we?
could I move the model motion?
Yes, you were about to. Why don't you move
Yeah,
the
you
model
let
motion?
somebody
So
else.
moved by Riser,
Support.
support by Noel. Please call the roll.
Riser,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Flintoff, yes, Brazo, Carrie,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
motion passes 7-0.
I didn't know you wanted.
Okay. So this is, the next item is G2. This is approval of increased authorization of contract with Plant Moran for interim finance director services. And this is prepared by Jessica. but
Yes,
I
what
believe you
questions do
also
people have?
worked on it with Township manager.
Yes, together.
Yeah, I wanted it pulled because this is, why is it so much more than what we approved? What's going on? Is there, are there findings that are difficult or are they cleaning up something? I don't know.
Yeah. And actually, what was approved by the board was, having Plant Moran working for the township 2 days a week at, a monthly cost of $10,500. However, we've asked them to do additional work beyond that. And as a result, the cost is more than what was anticipated. So for example, for the fire SAD, they did an evaluation for that purpose. They also worked with our bond counsel to take a look at bonding in the event that a new fire station was built. They're also working with the staff with water and sewer rate evaluation. So we've asked them to do more, and part of what we plan to do to try to keep our costs down is to maybe transfer some of those expenses to existing staff with the township. However, some of the work that they've done has been very detailed, and we did require that type of expertise.
Okay, yeah.
And so this would get us through March 31st to close out what we expect them to do.
For the fiscal year.
Yeah,
Yes, to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. And it includes also some support on accounts payable. We had both finance staff out at the same time for personal reasons. And so there's just been a lot going on, but I will say Joyce has done a really good job of working with PM, trying to control the cost. I've tried to, I'll just say again, I think we all know we have the continual training of our own staff and continual capacity building. And so as that grows, we'll rely less on consultants, but there's a ton of work to be done at Scio Township.
Well, I know there was, I just,
There's
just
still
from
is.
what we had approved before and why, but this
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But thank you for the explanation. It's good for us to know and for the public as well.
Is someone prepared to make the
Yeah,
model?
I am.
All right, go for it.
I was gonna do the John style and interrupt everybody before they were. Okay, to authorize an additional 31,750 from Fund 101-191-823 for contract with Plant Moran for interim finance director services through March 31st, 2024.
So moved by Carrie, support by Riser. Please call the roll.
Riser,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
Palmer, yes, Flintoff, yes, Brazo,
Yep.
Carrie,
Yes.
Noel, motion adopted 7-0.
All right, that brings us to item G3. This is approval of a charitable gaming license for the Jackson Road Cruise for June 8th, 2024, prepared by Clerk Flintoff. Please introduce this item, Clerk Flintoff.
Sure, this is a regular request we get. We haven't gotten one of these in a while. The process is similar to a liquor license where we're asked for our recommendation about if we recommend that the state actually grant the license or not. It's attorney approved. I reviewed all the documentation and welcome any questions.
Okay, well, when I was reading through this, there was, what are they gaining? Are they, I don't know, poker, whatever.
So those details will be put forth in their application to the state about if it'll be likely a raffle. Something like that is typically what they do. And it's a 1-day event, June 8th only for the cruise, and it's charitable. There are 5 persons.
Okay, so it says more information available at jcruise.org. So I went there and it says it's a 404.
What's a 404?
There, if you go to their website.
Oh, it's
Okay.
it's a error. It's a
Well,
technical
you know
error.
what, then I
Because I felt,
included a bad link.
no, you didn't.
No, I did. I was on their website before I put this on here. I checked it before I put it on here. So
Then they must have.
apologies. So Todd Bailey is the agent for the Jackson Road Cruise. It's, an event that's been closely affiliated with Scio Township for many years. And it's been reincorporated a couple years ago. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's
Yeah, I live right there and they're parked at the end of the road. I know what it's about. It's just that, see, it's a 404. It's a 404.
okay. What are
That's-
your questions?
Well, it says for more information available, go to this, but then there's nothing in here to,
What would you like to know about?
well, what kind of, it's a raffle? I mean, is that what it is? I don't know,
So,
because
I
I
don't.
try to avoid the Jackson Road Cruise.
Okay, so the organization itself is a verified 501c3. Its articles of incorporation are on file with the state. I don't know exactly what kind of raffle it is. It's not, I didn't think it was germane to this decision because that application for the specific type of raffle, other game, their bingo, whatever it's gonna be, is gonna be described to the state and the state decides on that. All the state is asking us really is this in fact a local nonprofit organization, proposing an event for which we have no objection?
Okay, well, it's
Is
just
that
that we don't
fair
have enough
characterization?
information to make a decision because it was a little sus to go to their website and there was, the error.
I'll send out the correct address.
No, it is the correct. He just went there.
But I'm on their Facebook.
Yeah, well,
So-
I don't go to Facebook very often.
But there isn't going to
Well-
be information on their website right now about the particulars of a raffle. The question before us is, do we recognize them as a nonprofit organization operating in the community for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license? And I think that they do qualify as such. I think the event hasn't created any problems, only benefits for the township.
Okay.
I think it's really about, are they a charitable organization?
Yeah,
And they
which
are.
I couldn't verify.
I verified it, and I'm sorry if it wasn't clear. In the background, I said the clerk has confirmed its nonprofit status as well as its articles of incorporation on file with the state. So I already did that work.
So is someone prepared to
So
make the
you want
model
us to
motion?
trust you?
I know, it's,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, John, go ahead, model motion.
I would move the model motion, but before that, I will say that I'm on their Facebook page and they have a history of their photos going back to at least 2019. And there's all kind of photos and there's photos of cars and they're legit and they talk about what, what they do. So I'm prepared to move this and I'll be supporting it when it comes to a vote.
So the model motion is to approve the local governing body resolution for charitable gaming licenses that the request from the Jackson Road Cruise Corporation as presented.
I'll support.
Okay, so moved by Riser, support by Palmer. And this is not a monetary thing. So all those in favor say aye. Aye.
actually, apologies. I would ask for a roll call vote.
Oh, we need a roll call. Oh, we need the number of yeas and nays. All right, sorry, roll call.
Riser,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Flintoff, yes, Brazil,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Right, resolution adopted 7-0. Thank you.
And just a point of information, on their website, it does
It's not
talk
their website, it's Facebook.
on Facebook website, on their page, it talks about a raffle tickets about being able to be purchased for $1 a piece.
Okay,
Click on.
let's move on to public comment. This is the time for members of the public to speak for up to 3 minutes on any matter under the purview of the Board of Trustees. Trustee Brazeau, are you ready to be our timekeeper? All right, is there anyone present who would like to speak during public comment?
Pam Boyd, a Scio resident and thorn in your side. Okay, you now have 18 meetings left in your term. When in the next 30 days are you going to schedule a special meeting to discuss your goals for these last 18 meetings? Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Is there anyone else present who would like to speak during public comment?
I want to thank Bob for all this work with the watershed.
Yeah.
And with the BC. He's really done a great job over the years. I didn't know he was so involved with the watershed, but that's great. Something I'm very concerned about. Anyway, Paula Gloverson, hey, since we had this electric car fire and we were talking about the solar ordinance, you know, zoning changes, all this. I've had I could not find the ordinance. It's like a place where I could see all the ordinances.
I'm gonna send you a link, Paula.
So, anyway, so I started thinking about it because it turned out to be an extension cord. Because I have a couple of neighbors, one neighbor I don't really care for. However, I didn't ever see any electrician over there or anyone like doing the work for for plugging in the Tesla. And I started thinking, and actually I advocated, I don't want people to think I'm against solar. I'm just against these like big solar arrays and whether they're gonna be like some big bank somewhere where everybody's gotta stare at it in the back of their yard. But anyway, so, my neighborhood initially told this one person they couldn't put in solar. This was on the roof. And then, of course, then somebody gets on the board and they got to get solar on their roof. We just have one in the neighborhood. But, there are issues with fire with those when they're not maintained properly. I also, this is besides, we should look at, like how we're going to start recycling these. Because we have a gravel pit over here. And I'm much more concerned about what's gonna happen with all these batteries. But I wanna think about, we have this guy doing inspections at businesses. Same thing with a house rental, because people are renting their homes. And like, there's one in my neighborhood. The guy does not maintain it, who's renting it. So you have a fireplace where somebody's been running great, I wanna know what are our ordinance for rentals? I wanna know what our ordinances are for, should we start requiring people to put, fire alarms in the garages? How are they gonna be inspected when they're, maybe some people say, oh, they don't realize they don't have the correct electrical panel. I mean, there's a lot of things, and I'm no expert on electricity but you need special cords to plug in and there was recently in the university record, because I get that every 2 weeks or whatever, 70% of people who do own EVs are charging them at home. And, the one in Loch Alpine, the fire was not as, the homes are further apart. We have a lot of homes that are a lot closer together and we're talking about putting these solar panels in there. I mean, solar panels have to be cleaned off like every 6 months. They can be damaged. Germany's done some studies where they look at how far from the roof that they've got to be. Anyway, I want to think about ordinances and how we pay the fire department back, whether it's a charge of some, fee that these people have to get a permit and, because I don't want the house next door to me burning down.
And I just remind you, Paula, if you do have a code violation concern like maintenance of.
Pardon me?
If you do have a code concern, we do have our code enforcement officer, Sean, now, and would.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'll send
but
you
I
the
think
link.
we should have something for rentals, like Ann Arbor has a rentals, like if you're gonna rent your house out, it has to have fire extinguishers, blah,
And
blah.
I would just say if there's what you're describing going on next door, it doesn't matter if it's a rental or not.
Oh, okay. I'm just very concerned about, fire issues with all of our, we're gonna be electrifying more. But anyway, that's one of my big concerns as far as the solar. We need to look at the fire potential. Thanks.
Is there anyone else present who would like to speak during public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone participating remotely?
I got it.
You could raise your Zoom hand, let us know.
Yeah, please raise your Zoom hand. Any final public comments? We got 7 people with us. I see no hands.
In that case, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Brazeau, support by Noel. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, all right. We are adjourned at 10:01.
Here's the Scio Township website.
Yeah, okay, because I tried to find them like last weekend and.
I'm gonna go into it again, okay? Just so